My first question is, what is your creative process like, and where do you get your ideas from?
Well, that's a long. My creative process is comes from all over the place. As far as where I get my ideas from, I don't know. They just kind of pop up out of thin air sometimes. Like the way that Scary Godmother was created was my first niece was going to be born, and I really wanted to be her godmother. And I wanted to make a present for the baby. And I thought, okay, I'll make a book for her. And I didn't know what kind of book to make, but I thought that would be really cool. But I really figured I was lobbying very hard with her mother to say, like, well, I could be a godmother. I really could be a godmother. But then I was thinking about myself standing in the back of a church, a Catholic church, dressed a bit more goth than I am dressed now, but with my big crazy hair and my black leather jacket and my penchant for wild shoes and like big thigh-high boots and stuff like that. And I go, oh yeah, I'd be a pretty scary godmother. And when I said those two words together, it was like the light bulb went on, and I immediately envisioned like this little like kind of fairy. She really looked like Scary Godmother right off the bat, except that her eyes were all black and kind of almond shaped, and she was little.
Wow.
So the second drawing that I made of her, she was pretty much almost completely recognizable as the Scary Godmother you see today.
You just really draw out of everyday life then?
I do, and then a lot of my ideas, like things from Magic Trixie, I keep a little notebook with me, and sometimes I see things. I'm always taking photos with my cell phone camera, and but I hear people say something, or I see, like, especially because Magic Trixie is about little kids, I hear how little kids talk, and they say things and they notice things in a way that you as an adult just don't anymore. And phrase things. Some things just made me crack up. And I would constantly write down things my nieces said when they were like 3, 4 years old, or 6 years old, just because their world outlook was so amazing, and how they just how they discovered things, or how they talked amongst themselves, or how they played, and their logic. Because as an adult, you're too rational. Even if you're really fun and free spirited, there's just most things aren't really necessarily new to you, even if you're really good about experiencing life as it comes at you. So that's the place I get a lot of other ideas, and then I focus on things that I like. I love Halloween, so that's why both of those things are Halloween themed. I love monsters and supernatural, but I also love cutesy things.
Yeah.
So I just kind of mixed it up to try and make it fun and lighthearted.
Okay.
And I just try and make. Because what really usually has seemed to work so far with stuff I've made up is if I do something to amuse myself, other people really like it. But if I really try and force it and fit it into a box of like, what will other people like?
Yeah.
Then it's flat and boring and nothing really comes of it. But if I go, what's going to make me happy, then it usually makes other people happy too.
Oh. Well, you talked about how you drew off of what your nieces say. There's some of the phrases in Beast of Burden that I'm just like, that's so something that a dog would say. How do you just do the art, or are you in the writing, or?
On Beast of Burden, I just do the illustrations.
Okay,
Evan Dorkin does the writing, and he has a great brain for dialogue. He's the funniest guy, and he is really quick and quick-witted. And he's an excellent writer. So, I mean, a lot of times the stuff the dogs say sound like stuff he says if you know him.
Oh, okay.
So that really, that comes across. And he's tried to make them each ones have an individual voice. Whitey being more naive, and and Pugs being the smart ass, and Ace is heroic, and Jack's your everyman, and let's see, Rex is he's kind of discovering how to be brave, and he comes from a not so great family. His owners are kind of abusive, I think. So he's a bit skittish, and for being a dog that looks like he's supposed to be really fierce, technically he's not so much. So Evan knows he knows the history of all the dogs.
Will there be another book as far as like collection-wise goes?
Well, I'm hoping that Dark Horse will want us to do more issues of Beast of Burden. We're doing one a Hellboy Beast of Burden crossover, which actually affects both worlds a little bit. It's not one of these one-offs where they kind of meet up and then it's like they never existed. It will definitely affect the dog's world.
Okay. when will that be available?
When will that one be available? I just got the script, printed it out the day I came to this convention, so it's supposed to be out by the end of the year. I heard that they had it solicited for October. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get it done in time for it to be printed in October, because it's very involved. You know, it's there's a lot of characters, a lot of things happening. You know, and it's painted. You know, it's like it's a painted book. It takes a while to do that work.
And my last question, I'm personally really interested in your artwork. What advice do you have for watercolor? Just how do you make everything work? Is it just a lot of practice, or is there a specific advice?
How do I make everything work in watercolor? It is a lot of practice. It was something, I mean, I just took to. As far as a medium, I went to art school and tried all of the mediums that they offered, but it wasn't, you know, and while I could do everything pretty competently, watercolor just came really easily to me. And I'd never picked it up before I went to school. The advice I would give is like, yes, it's certainly a lot of practice, but when you start out, don't try and go full color right away. I mean, we were not allowed to go full color. We had to work for like weeks and weeks in just one color, you know, one color wash, because you're learning how to paint, and you're learning how to do values, and you're learning how to, you know, move your medium around, and composition is like the most important thing to that process. And then we moved on to, we were allowed 2 colors, and with 3 colors, and effectively, I think by the very end of the year, we were allowed to go full color. But you could make, I mean, a 2-color or a 3-color painting sometimes has the effect of being full color with the 2 colors you choose, because the way you can mix the colors together, what they create, and then and all the values of each one of those things, plus the original colors too. So you have the range of color there with the original colors, and then the one that you've mixed together.
Okay. This has been Ashleigh Mayes, and I was interviewing Jill Thompson.